distract me, when I'm writing. And a lot of times it could be as simple as me walking, across like Independence Square in Kyiv, for example, and just seeing a girl at a park bench having lunch or something, and just looking at that person, and it just, for some reason, if that person inspires me, I'll just start writing, and but a lot of times you can also get writer's block, and that happened to me once. And I was writing the first book, The Dragon of Prowley, and for the life of me, I just couldn't write anything. And I said, boy, what am I going to do? So I decided, well, I'm just going to fly to Wales, take a week's vacation, kind of relax, do some sightseeing, see some castles, and that'll cure me. Going to see castles always cures me. Because as a kid, I have a lot of family who still live in England, since I'm a second-generation American. So as a kid, I would go to England all the time. And in fact, when I was 10, my dad would say, just go run loose, and I would take the tube, through England and see sights on my own at age 10. And so England is a place that I know very well. So I thought, well, I'll go to Wales, and see some sights. It's a place I'm not too familiar with. So I went out there, rented a car, drove out to Wales, and I noticed there were like red dragons everywhere. And I'm like, oh, there's a red dragon in my story. And just boom, just like that, I got inspired again, and then I finished the book. But going to England quite often as a kid and seeing castles, for some reason, just the image of a castle kind of inspires me to write. I'm the type of person, York, England, I don't know, have any of you been to England before? In York, it's my favorite city of all time in England. And just walking on the walls there in York, and I was with somebody, and we're standing on this wall that's hundreds and hundreds of years old. I've seen many battles, of York and what have you. In fact, William Wallace, that's portrayed in the movie Braveheart, actually pillaged York, right? And just standing there, looking out, beyond it, I'm thinking, can you imagine you standing here, probably with a bow and arrow, and these storms of Scottish people just rushing towards the wall, and I'm just imagining it, and the person next to me says, "You're crazy. What do you, why would you stand there and think of these things?" And I said, well, it inspires me. History inspires me. I find it fascinating. When I was a younger kid, I liked the swords and the castles and all that, but I hated to read. I hated to read about it. Kids, they really don't like to read. So castles usually solves my writing block problem. What I find kind of scary today is in regards to books. Russia is very nice because I call them a literary society. They still read books there. Whereas in the United States, I always say it's a movie and television society. A lot of people don't read books unless they have to read books for school, for study, to get good grades. But if you're not going to school, most people are not reading books. And nowadays, if they're reading books, it's on a tablet, it's on an e-reader, and I don't know how it is here in Ukraine, a lot of people are still reading books, but last year more people read books off e-readers and computers than they did actual novels. And there was a large book company called Borders Books in the United States, originated from Australia, but it was a large chain in the United States, and they closed them all down because no one was buying books. Well, lucky for me, I have a contract with Barnes & Noble. If you've heard of Barnes & Noble, it's a very large book chain. My publisher, they contract everyone for them, for Barnes & Noble, and that's where I do all my book signings at all the Barnes & Nobles. Well, it was discouraging. In San Jose alone, we had 6. And well, 6 is quite a few, Barnes & Nobles, but San Jose is the 3rd largest city in California and the 10th in the United States. So 6, if you think in regards to population, probably isn't enough. But they closed half of them down a few months ago. And when the book came out in January, I started doing the book tour in the United States, the Barnes & Nobles, and speaking to the managers who run the Barnes & Nobles, and they're kind of scared about the whole situation. Well, this is sad, because it shows that people are no longer reading books like they have in the past. They're just movies and television. And one great thing about Russia is they still read books traditionally, holding like all of these, right? And I'm not sure how it is in Ukraine. I'm assuming it's very much like Russia. They read a lot of books. But when I was at the university, and earlier today, I had 2 television interviews that I did for the newscast, Channel 5, and I think it's NTN. And one of their questions was, how do you feel about the decline of books? It's even being talked about here. And I talked about how it's discouraging that I say that books are becoming very much like music. You just press a button and it just downloads on your device. But me, I'm a little sentimental. I'm a little old-fashioned maybe. But there's nothing like holding a book, smelling a book, feeling the book. I mean, there really is nothing like it in the world. I do have an e-reader. I don't use it all that much. I still read books traditionally, but now I'm starting to get my favorite books and putting them like leather bound. And saying to myself, well, when I get old, retired, sitting in front of a fire with a pipe or something, I'll have my leather hardbound books. I'll just sit there being an old guy reading my favorite stories. I'll probably be the last one reading traditional books. But like I said, more books last year have been downloaded than actually bought in stores. And I think it's very sad. And it also, in a way, writers lose money, right? And in regards to book signings, well, if people aren't buying books, they're just downloading them, how are you going to autograph a screen? Unless they come up with an app for it. Right, and I'm sure they will. But it's just, it's just something about technology. And like I said, it's going to be exactly like music. When I was a kid, you had record stores just about on every corner. And you would work hard, being a kid's 13, working at, like a convenience store. And I'd save up my money for like the most recent record, or the record I was, vinyl records. And I was anticipating I'd go out and buy the record. It doesn't happen anymore. In San Jose, there's like 2 record stores. They're just used record stores. The only people using vinyl are DJs. And unfortunately, I think that's the way books. That's how it's going to turn out. So I think you're not going to see many events anymore. Like when you listen to music, what do? You go on a computer and you go to iTunes, and think of it, when was the last time you actually bought a full entire album with one group? It doesn't happen anymore. You like 2 songs out of the whole album, and that's it, right? And you're not buying the rest. And maybe that's a good thing, because sometimes when, back in the 80s, you hear one song on the radio, you buy the whole album and realize it was only that one song that was good. For me, growing up in the 80s, my favorite rock band was Adam and the Ants. I don't know if you ever heard of them. They're like a British punk band. Later, Adam Ant became solo, and he made solo albums till like the mid-90s. is very much like the Sex Pistols, you know, in that time period, if you ever heard of the Sex Pistols, or if you ever heard of the Clash. They came from that era. You know, but if you have a favorite group like that, you like all their songs just because you like the group, even if the songs are good. So I see books happening the same way. You know, and what's also saddening is people are not publishing the traditional way anymore. Amazon is a big destroyer of publishing. And do you guys buy things from Amazon? They publish just about anything. And there was a guy, it was Entertainment Weekly. He wrote a book, okay? He downloaded it and posted it on Amazon for 99 cents. The guy became a millionaire, okay? And the book's not even in real form. It's never been out in real form. He just wrote it on his computer and has it on Amazon. It's just a download. That's it. For 99 cents. And he became a millionaire. Why? Because there are people who go to Amazon looking for books, and they have this little button that says, books, you know, $1 or less, right? And people say, I want a cheap read. They look, boom, okay, 99-cent books. Okay, I like this book. I don't know what it's about. What the hell? It's 99 cents. Big deal. It's less than $1. Even if I hate the book, it's not going to make me broke. So they, boom, press the button. Well, it made this guy a millionaire. Right? So now that this has happened, everybody is putting out these 99-cent books, and it's people like me who spent an entire year writing a book and going through the process, and we're starting to lose the money. We're starting, you know, because now it's just inundated, you know, which is sad for writing. But, you know, it's sad, but I'm not going to stop writing. You know, I'm not going to change my profession. You know, I mean, I've worked too hard, and it's something that I enjoy. When I was at the university, the local university here, you know, a lot of the students, you know, talking about, you know, after college, working and getting stuck in a job you don't like, and spending your whole life working at this job that you just hate, but you're working it strictly to pay the bills. And I said to them, you know what? It's called a job for a reason. Okay? If you like to do it, it's not a job, because what the definition of job is something you have to do that you don't like, that you get paid for it. If you're doing something that you like, it's actually not a job, right? So I said to them, find out what you love to do and make that your profession. Because, and even if you don't make a lot of money at it, just do what you like. Because I've learned in my personal life, life is not about money. You know, I've seen and met some of the richest guys in the world. Okay, I've had dinners with governors from the state of California. I've, you know, been to parties with big movie stars. Okay, and they're just like anyone else. They all put on their pants the same way. Okay. But it doesn't matter if you're making $20 million like Scarlett Johansson, okay? Or making 16 bucks an hour flipping hamburgers at McDonald's, okay? Money is not going to bring the happiness. It's what you enjoy doing and making that your profession. That's what's going to make you happy. So that's pretty much what I told them. And they said, you know, what do you think about, you know, like being independent and blah, blah, blah. And I was basically saying, you know, do what you like to do. You know, you don't know how many times being, you know, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, whatever, that I'm writing a story and I tell my dad about it. Hey, I wrote a new story. You know, when you're a kid, you're all excited, right? and you know, your parent tells you, why don't you do something useful with your life? Why are you wasting your time writing? And you hear a lot of this from musicians, and a lot of famous musicians too, make a lot of money, and they'll tell you the same thing. You know, they'd go to their parents, hey, listen to this new riff that I created, and they'd be like, why are you wasting your time playing an electric guitar? You're not going to make money doing that. It's a 1,000,000 to 1 shot. You know, the secret was they continued to do what they liked, and they strive to make it their profession. I told them, you know, never give up. Never give up, continue, and be who you want to be. Don't allow people to form you. Don't let society shape you. You know, you make the difference. You shape society. You know, or do your best to shape society. You know. So as you can see, I'm very free thinking, very independent, and sometimes it gets me in trouble. And sometimes I put my foot in my mouth too. So basically, what I'm doing today is I'm writing another book. I'm not doing the Prowley books because it was a trilogy, but I'm working on and putting them all in one book form. Tolkien is a major influence of mine, and I decided to take the 3 books and put them all into one, kind of exactly like he did with Lord of the Rings. So I'm working on that, and I'm actually working on a full novel with just a bunch of short stories. And since I've been here, you know, I've been asked, well, you go to Russia and you've written Russian stories, or you've gone to Sergei Posad and you've written, you know, stories of, you know, that takes place there. They always ask, are you going to write a story about Kyiv? And I probably will, because there is a lot of inspiration here. Like I said, I like history. And the first day I was here, I walked over where I was staying over Independence Square, and I walked over to the churches close by St. Was it? St. Sophia, and another church nearby, and yeah, it was just awesome, you know. And they had this icon there on the wall, and someone had pointed out to me, have you noticed the oil dripping from the icon? I didn't notice it at first. And I said, okay, that's interesting. They said, well, you know, that means it's alive, right? I found it interesting. You know, it just kind of blew my mind away. So I think once I get back to the States, once I get back to California, I'm sitting there in traffic, going through the daily rituals of every Californian in the fast-paced, I'll actually sit down and write something involving Kyiv. But it'll probably be something historical, probably something that takes place in the Middle Ages. So, you know, I did see the Golden Gate today. It was, you know, I like our Golden Gate better, but, you know, it's much larger. But it was interesting, and tomorrow I've been told I'm going to a monastery where they have like these caves, and they have these incorruptible saints. And saints always give me inspiration. So, because saints, they always live amazing, dramatic lives, and saints, you don't find too many of them where their life ends up very nice, right? They're usually, most of them, martyrs. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I think at the end of all this, after I've done all my lectures at all these different locations, that I'll leave, Kyiv will give me something. Kyiv will give me a gift of inspiration. And I'll go home and I'll write something. And it'll be in that the short story. But I've also written things where places I've never been. Just because I like to study history, I wrote a short story of a battle that takes place in Hungary. You know, but Hungary is a place I'd like to go to as well. You know, but the world's a big place, and you can only go to one place at a time. And being here in Kyiv, first day I think I fell in love with it because the people were so nice and kind to me, And I said, "Oh, when are you coming back?" And I said, "Oh, I'd like to come back next month." But I said, it depends. It could be a year or two because there's just so many places to be. And if I spent the time going from place to place, I'd never end up writing anything. If I never end up writing anything, there'd be no place, reason to visit, and I would have no money to visit anyway. But I told him I'll probably be back in Kyiv, in a couple of years. But Kyiv, the first day, it kind of overwhelmed me with their kindness. I haven't had a bad experience in Kyiv yet. Well, actually, I have a little bit. I left the city center and went to the outskirts of Kyiv, and it wasn't the nicest neighborhood. It was kind of scary. I went back. I went back to the city center. It wasn't as dangerous as LA. I think LA is probably one of the most dangerous cities on the planet. I can walk down the streets of Moscow at 2 a.m. I can sit and have a beer, Independence Square at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I feel perfectly safe. There's no way in hell you'll ever see me driving anywhere or walking anywhere at 2 a.m. in Los Angeles. I would even hesitate to do it during the day. To me, it's one of the most dangerous cities in the world. But Kyiv has been an experience, and I'm wanting to learn more of it. And it's an amazing culture. I'm here, and every day I'm learning something. Even though it's only my second day, I can only imagine after a week. If so much has already come out of it, how much is Kyiv going to give me as a gift? And when I go to Russia, I always, even though I've been there quite a few times, I always say, because you always get a lot of Americans or a lot of Westerners that go to Russia even only once for like 2 weeks, and they come back to the States. Yeah, I'm a Russian expert. I know everything about Russia. And I can tell you I know nothing about Russia, being there so many times, because I do know things of Russia because I've been there. But to say you know everything about a country, it's impossible. Okay, and to say you know everything about a culture is kind of ignorant, right? So I know I will never know fully everything in regards to Ukraine, but I'm hoping to take everything that I can from it, put it in my heart, learn from it, and use it for my writings. And I know it'll give me what I'm looking for. It already has. So, anyways, that's about it. I'm sorry there wasn't more, but you guys make the history books. You guys are the smallest crowd. I swear we probably should have gone to a local restaurant and just had a few beers and some eats and just had an open conversation, But do you guys have any questions at all? Anything that you'd like to ask about anything at all? No? Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's it. You could look at my website or my Facebook page. Like me on Facebook, because in California your popularity is about how many likes you have now. That's the point where it's getting. It's like, hey, how many likes you have? About 200 likes. Whatever. I don't want to hang out with you. You only got 200 likes. Hey, how many likes you have? About 10,000. Hey, man, yeah, you're real popular. That's how it's becoming now. It's becoming like how many likes you are. That's how popular you are. Facebook is changing. Well, I'm sure it's changed the whole world now, but it's really changed the United States. All the digital cameras we have now. 10 years ago, people were not in a restaurant with their digital cameras taking pictures of food and placing it on Facebook and saying, look what I had for dinner today. Now everyone's doing that. In fact, in California, I know this, people are just taking pictures strictly to put it on Facebook. And now that you have cameras with cameras on phones, people are Facebooking everything. So Facebook has changed society. And Mark Zuckerberg, who doesn't live too far from me in Palo Alto, I gotta hand it to him. He has stayed centered, and he doesn't own some giant estate home. It's a small 2-bedroom in Palo Alto, and at least he hasn't gone wacko with his money. He seems pretty conservative with spending, but what he has done to society and the world society, he's changed it forever, I think. Russia, they're interesting, because if America makes something, they'll just copy it exactly and call it something else. Like, I thought to myself, well, I don't have a lot of Russians that I've met on my Facebook. I have some, but they have this thing called VK. It's exactly like Facebook. It's a rip-off of Facebook, basically. So I said, well, I'll try that. And I still have it, but I haven't been on that thing for like a year. It's like totally useless. So, but Ukrainians, on the other hand, last 2 days that I've been here, boom, 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 on my Facebook, which is awesome, because I'm very approachable. You can just send me a note or something, message me on Facebook, and I'll respond right away. In fact, I'm talking to 2 people that I spoke